I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities to get to know and study things like plantar fasciitis, which really means my feet have been sore a lot of times in my life. So I'm going to give you my perspective on it and take it for what it is. It's really worked for me. This is my protocol. The thing I want you to think about is that the fascia on your foot is very thin, and the fascia on your calf or in your bum is very thick. The thinnest part of you is always going to exhibit the symptoms before the thickest part. The thickest part is strong and it's holding on. I think of it like there are hoarders in our bodies, and then there are the places of scarcity. Foot is scarce. Calves and bum, hoarders, absolute hoarders. So let me back up. Plantar fasciitis is felt primarily in the foot, right around the foot, in the heel, right around here. And you might wake up in the morning and be unable to walk or feel like your foot's just super stiff. Other times I've had a similar experience, but it hasn't been in the heel. It's been in my second toe. We call it Morton's toe, where I have felt like I couldn't bend my toes properly to walk. So that being said, I just want this video to be helpful to you in terms of stuff that might be happening in your feet, but it'll be equally great for hamstrings, SI stuff like sciatica, um, leg, foot, bum stuff in general, hip stuff in general. It'll be a good video for you. And what we want to be thinking about all the way through is how do we get the hoarders to share with the places of scarcity? So you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need access to a wall. We're going to end the video with an excruciating posture where I lie on my side, place my foot against the wall. So you don't need a ton of wall space. In fact, sometimes it works if you've got a pretty heavy couch, um, drawers of a desk. It doesn't have to be a wall. It's just something that the sole of your foot can plant into. So no big deal there. The other thing you're going to need is a belt. So if you don't have a fancy yoga belt, then you would be using a long scarf. Belt from your bathrobe is equally great. So what might be interesting to start out with is just to feel where you're at in your hips. So if you can sit with me in a cross-legged position and do a couple of circles, and in the circles, you're tuning in, becoming aware of what's happening around tailbone and sacrum and hip sockets in general. Reverse those circles. I always like to get my shoulders involved. Remember that when we're dealing with fascia, which we're always dealing with, it is a tissue that is fully connected in your body. So when I'm doing these circles and I'm feeling my sitting bone area, it's going to affect my neck and my skull, my scalp, my shoulders, right? It's all connected. All right. So that gives you a little sense of where you might feel tight in your hips and low back. But let's get to this protocol. So I want you to lie back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. Now, some of you might think, oh, but I can do this with my legs straight or my opposite leg straight. Just keep it bent, and this will all make sense in a moment. So, feet are planted on the floor. You feel aligned from shoulders to hips to feet. Bring your right knee into your chest and just lightly hold around the shin. Tuck your chin slightly in. So, one of the things that causes issues in our bodies generally, but especially low back, is we tend to decrease the curve of the lumbar spine. So your lumbar spine is meant to curve into your body, where your sacrum, your thong triangle, is down or out or down into the ground in this case. So sacral area should feel like it's pressing into the ground, and more so the lower thong triangle. Then as I come up my spine, there's a lumbar curve up off the floor, thoracic down into the floor, cervical or cervical off the floor again, skull, of course, on the floor. So when I bring my right knee into my chest, I could imprint the low back, my tailbone curls a little bit, which is okay short term, but not long term. I want to tuck my chin in to elongate my back. Now I want to roll the weight down to the lower thong triangle again. What might make sense to you is thinking pubic bone to the base of your mat. So instead of imprinting, I've got the lumbar spine curving again. Can you do that while pulling your right knee in? What does that have to do with your foot? Well, you need to find this hinge where thigh meets hip so that your low back can be healthy and you're hinging at the right place to get your hamstring stretching properly. So as I press my pubic bone long, I'm deepening the fold of my body to a little bit of side to side, just like a hi, how are you? It's really important that you don't go ramming into your body, guns blazing, right? We want to go in peace because fascia is reactive. And so if you go in screaming in, then the fascia is just going to defend itself against you. Take your belt, place it into the ball of your right foot, and stretch your right foot up. I want you to wrap the belt around each hand so that you don't have to grip with your hands or your shoulders. Excuse me. Again, I want to tuck the chin in a bit. So back in Jane Fonda workout days, we would imprint the low back, we'd ram the knee toward the nose, and we'd call that a good stretch. We do not call that a good stretch anymore. I want you to get your heel above your hip line. So I'm going to roll my weight down my lower thong triangle. I want to keep the arms heavy to keep the foot where it is, but now press the pubic bone really long, and the plot should be thickening now through your hamstrings. You do not have to straighten your knee. Instead, flex more or hinge more deeply at your ankle. So your hands pull on the belt. You press inner and outer heel up, teeth unclench. Now let your left hand pull on the belt more so that the outside of your foot turns up. I feel that along my outer ankle. The other place I feel it is along the soleus muscle, which is on the outside of your calf. I seem to recall that that is the longest muscle in your body because it goes from the knee area down the outer, all the way to the outer ankle and across your heel. So it's fairly deep. And I would hope that as you're doing this, you feel some lights lighting up. Again, press the pubic bone long, drop your shoulders, and relax your jaw. Ease off with the left hand. Let your right hand pull down. So now the inner ankle is stretching. The inner foot is reaching up. Now, if I press up through the back of my heel right now as I maintain this kind of off balance stretch, there's a pretty big series of fireworks coming into my calf. If you're stretching fascia, what you're looking to do is unwind the thickness of it. Remember the hoarder idea? So to unwind, you need opposition. You've got to pull two ends of the toffee. So press the lower bum down, reach up through that inner heel, drop your shoulders. Okay, ease off. Now loofah the belt towards your heel. We need to counter stretch, right? Get the tips of your toes to stretch up. You're pointing. So think about that idea about scarcity and hoarders. So the top of your foot is pretty scarce in tissue, your shin really meaty and thick. So we want to think about lengthening the front of the ankle so that it's more felt in the shin. Now reach your big toe up higher than all the other toes, and be careful that your chest does not come up and tighten. This is your front fascial train. How about your baby toe reaching up higher than all the other toes? Watch your eyebrows. Now do all 5 toes, but again, make sure you're stretching into the shin splints, not just into the top of your foot. Now let's thicken the plot. Ease off on that point. Loofah the belt toward the ball of your foot again. Don't flex too much yet. Both hands are going to pull equally. I'm going to count to 3 as you deepen the stretch. Om 1, both hands pull. Om 2, send inner and outer heel up. Ugh. Om 3, pull the tips of your toes down. You should have just entered the blazing fires of your calf, your gastrocnemius muscle in the back of your calf. To make matters worse, press your pubic bone long again while maintaining the pressure on your belt. Do you notice that my knee is not locked? I am not jamming it. I want to keep it a little soft because otherwise I just put my knee at risk. Keep sinking in more and more deeply. Think of elongating the sole of your right foot from heel to toes. The inner heel is pressing up as much as the outer heel. To make matters yet worse again, you might now slide your left leg straight. You can see why we waited. A lot of times when when we extend our legs, the inner foot tips down or toward the pelvis. So think about that also with your left leg. I want you to press out through the insides of your feet and think femurs, thigh bones, into backs of thighs. How's the teeth clenching going? One more worsening. Take that right leg maybe 2 inches to the left. This is not a big journey, but man, is it ever painful. So I've crossed the midline of my body, but not much more than that. I want to keep my right bum in contact with the ground. You might slip the belt into your left hand so that your right hand is free to press into the face of that thigh, pressing your hip out of your ear. And now push your inner foot up higher. I hope you are groaning. Do one more breath here. Oh, come back to center. Let's just counter stretch all of that. This is not about plantar fasciitis. Hold the belt in your right hand. Open your right leg out to the side. Please don't try to get to the floor. What I see when people try to get to the floor is their left hip rises up. I want you to stay grounded. You might get your right elbow to the floor. That's great. Your right leg needs to turn. So kneecap toward the ground, hamstrings toward the sky. Press that heel away. Just do one more breath. Come back to neutral. Bend your left knee. Place your right foot on the floor. Notice the difference between the length of your right side, the depth of your right bum into the floor, as though you're sinking into sand. So what a great indication that when you think you're stuck and can't get better, yes, you can. You are always changing. So let's ensure you're not going to walk around in circles all day with one leg longer than the other. Bring your left knee into your chest. Tuck your chin in. Press your weight lower down your thumb triangle so that instead of your pubic bone and tailbone curling up, you're actually pressing them to the bottom edge of your mat. Shoulders down. Breathe. Little bit of side to side. I come in peace. Because if your left hip got any of what your right hip was going through, it might be a little worried. Let's take the belt, place it into the ball of your left foot. So one idea, let me back up. Bring your left foot up and have the belt in the ball of your foot. Wrap the belt around your hands. So you slowly apply weight to the ball of your foot and then roll your weight toward the lower thumb triangle. Careful not to lock your knee. Take a couple of breaths, pressing up through inner and outer heel, neck and shoulders soft. I often feel twitching in my neck when I do this because we're unwinding the back fascial train, which really comes up the back body over the top of your head all the way to your eyebrows for that tension headache that you get. Right hand pulls down. The outer ankle is stretching. So what I was going to suggest is that plantar fasciitis and foot pain is usually one-sided. It can be both if you're really lucky, but mostly it's one side. Okay, can you feel that stretching on your soleus? So what you could do is you could stretch the sore side twice. So if it was your right side, then after we do the left, I'd go back to the right. Let your left hand pull down and the inner foot goes up. The problem with that theory about doing it twice, okay, so now as your inner ankle is stretching, push down through your bum, push up through your inner heel. The problem is that fascia is very unpredictable and complex. It could, if your left foot is the one that's sore, it might be your right glutes that are pulling on that left foot. You don't actually know until you do stretches like this to find out. And even then, it might take multiple tries to find the source. And you might never find the source. You might just follow this train of or chain of events in your body. Come to neutral. Loofah the belt towards your heel. Point your toes up, being mindful that you're getting into your shin. Core your shoulders down. Press up through the big toe and just notice what comes up for you. Of course, you're symptomatic. I can't imagine doing these stretches without feeling something. It's why we do them. Baby toe up. It is hard work to be an upright two-legged being. It's a lot of work on the low back, legs, and feet. Do all 5 toes up. Make sure it's shin splint and not top of your foot that's overstretching or straining. Drop your shoulders, your eyebrows. Press your bum down, lower thumb triangle. So every day of your life, you're going to be symptomatic. Don't try to find that perfect blank sheet of you. There's no such thing. You're always transforming. Start to ease off. Loofah the belt toward the ball of your foot. So we're going to count to 3, but first press pubic bone long. Om 1, both hands pull down. Om 2, inner and outer heel press up. Whew. Om 3, elongate the sole of your foot. Let's press the weight low on the thumb triangle, the sacrum. Reach up through the back of your heel. And as much as possible, let down your guard, because this is all about your guard. I have a very tight fascial system in my back because I tend to worry and I tend to be a perfectionist. So this is always my work. Slide your right leg straight. Remember the inner heels need to press away. Femurs into backs of thighs. Just feel the fires blazing, hey? Widen the back of your jaw. Take the belt into your right hand. The left leg comes across just past the midline, no more than that. So if you want a deeper stretch in this, don't try to go further over. Instead, shorten the belt. Press your left hand into the face of your left thigh. Oh my gosh. Stretching that left hip out of your earlobe. You know, inflammation is interesting because we're kind of like frogs in the water. We don't realize how hot the water's getting. Push up through that inner foot, make it all a little worse. So when we do something like this, we feel the fire coming up, the inflammation rising. What happens is the body goes, oh, wow, I had no idea it was so hot. I'm going to flood that area with blood and move the inflammation out. Come back to center. Change hands. Take your left leg over to the left side. Right arm could open shoulder height. Now, when you do this, it's external rotation. So turn your kneecap to face the floor, hamstrings face the sky. Press out to the back of your heel. Come on back up. Bend your right knee. Bend your left knee. Whew. So these are just ideas for stretches for you. That's a series that you could practice a lot. Do you feel the tingling in your feet? The next one is using the wall. It won't be long to do this, but if you don't have a lot of time, do one or the other. Do that series that we just did, or do the one we're about to do now. I will caution you, this one is much more intense and is best followed after that last series, but it's okay to just do it as well. So I'm moving my body closer to the wall, and I want my left side to be facing the wall first because we're going to squish the right belly. And we always want to work on our digestive system. Ascending colon needs to be squished first. So I want you to turn toward the wall with everything, shoulders, hips, everything. I am about 1.5 feet from the wall. Now you bring your right foot onto the wall. So you see how I'm about a foot, maybe 2 feet off of the floor. My foot is kind of parallel to my chest. My knee is bent. So that's all correct. I roll. I want to hook my right thumb into the fold where thigh meets hip. Now, if this is already a lot for you, you could bring your foot up higher. I like it down lower because it's more accurate. You can also have it down here. I like it higher because I know what I'm in for. So right thumb hooks into the fold. I want to press that fold down. And as I do, I start to roll my chest toward the ceiling. My right foot is pushing into the wall fairly intensely. So now I'm in the twist. My shoulders are on the ground. I'm pressing into that fold and feeling that soleus again, feeling the IT band on the outside of my thigh. Now, if you want to make matters worse, certainly open that right arm to the side, but there's more. What if you flexed your right foot, pulling the ball of the foot away from the wall, really pressing the heel into the wall. Push your pubic bone to the bottom of your mat and breathe. That's it. Bend your knee, so intense. Bring both feet to the ground. Check in, feel the difference between your two sides. You need to come over to the other side. So we do our little spin, bringing out our internal break dancer anytime we can. You're going to lie on your right side. You take your left foot, place it on the wall. You decide where that's going to go. Your left thumb hooks into the fold where thigh meets hip. Now push firmly into that fold and feel how your chest starts to open. Press your left foot strongly into the wall. Press your sitting bone strongly away from your head. Nausea is fairly normal to feel at moments like this. You might, oh boy, you might flex your left foot, pulling the ball of the foot away from the wall. Whew. Press your sitting bone so long, pubic bone so long. Maybe your left arm could open shoulder height. My right hand is holding my left leg only because I want to say to my left leg, I'm so sorry. This won't last forever. 2 more breaths here. Let's let it go. So, can you meet me back in a seated position? Go back to your cross-legged position. So, I've been practicing yoga steadily for 25 years. I still have a very tight body. My fascia is very tight and dense. So before you go getting mad at yourself or worse at your body is weathering a lot. Be kind. Let's do some circles. Let's see what's shifted. Do you feel any more freedom in your hips? What I often will feel is more homework. So once I release the tension in one part of my body, the fascia in another part of my body is now ready to be worked on. Make sure you go in both directions. So simple, easy stretches to do, not necessarily easy to feel. I wish you well. The other thing, sorry, one last thing about plantar fasciitis, massage your feet, love your feet. You know, you can do the little water bottle that we're not supposed to have anymore, freeze it, roll your foot on it. But also, I just dig my thumbs in and I try to stretch my foot. Be careful of your footwear. If it's plantar fasciitis or anything in your foot, what are you wearing on your feet? Are they supportive? If you wear flip-flops, you're setting yourself up for plantar fasciitis. You've got to have something with a heel strap or you're doomed. That's my one preach about plantar. So I hope this was helpful to you. Please like, subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to do on YouTube. So grateful to have spent time with you. I wish for you peace, Om Shanti. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste. Happy foot and leg healing.